My fellow Bahamians, it is appropriate for me to address the nation this evening to provide an update on the state of affairs surrounding the delayed completion and opening of the $3.5 billion mega Baha resort project in Cable Beach. This project, the largest of its kind ever to be built in a single phase in the Caribbean region, has enormous economic and employment implications for the Bahamas, and my government has been working diligently with the relevant parties with a view to ensuring the completion of the project as soon as possible. The project, by most informed estimates, is 97% completed, but has missed 2 opening dates. Construction work has stopped, and the general contractor and other subcontractors are owed substantial sums of money. A dispute has also arisen between the developer and the general contractor. The balance of the existing loan from China Exim Bank is insufficient to settle the amounts owed to the contractors and subcontractors and to complete the project. The developer has sought to obtain additional construction funding from China Exim Bank and the release of the balance remaining under the original loan. In this regard, the developer solicited my intervention with Exim Bank. Over the past several months, I have held a series of meetings and exchanged correspondence with the principals of Exim Bank, China Construction, and Baha in order to seek a resolution of the various funding and construction issues, all with a view to completion of the project within the shortest possible time frame. Following direct discussions with the parties, my understanding at the end of June was that the only major outstanding financing issue was that Mr. Ismailian would be required to provide a guarantee in respect to certain additional funding that Exim Bank was willing in principle to advance. Under the terms of the additional loan, the bank would contribute 50%, with the remaining 50% being divided equally between the construction company and the developer, with each providing guarantees. On the afternoon of June 29, 2015, the developer, in the person of Mr. Ismailian, requested a meeting with me. It was during this meeting that he, without prior notice to the government, the Exim Bank, and China Construction, informed me that Baha had filed a petition for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States. Soon thereafter, the developer proceeded to seek recognition of the U.S. Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection by application to the Bahamas Supreme Court. This was objected to by the Bahamas government, China Exim Bank, and China State Construction. The proceedings were adjourned at the request of Baha for a hearing on Monday, July 20th, 2015. The Supreme Court nonetheless directed that the parties should continue in good faith negotiations aimed at ensuring mutually acceptable arrangements for the completion and opening of the Baha project. For completeness, it should also be noted that Baha initiated legal proceedings in the United Kingdom against China Construction and locked the construction company out of their Cable Beach premises. Negotiations between the parties were convened in Beijing, China, from July 13th to July 15th. The government delegation was led by the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Alison Gibson, Queen's Counsel, who on my behalf chaired the sessions as well. After working diligently around the clock to arrive at a solution acceptable to all parties, and having made considerable progress, the talks nonetheless ended without agreement, whereupon the delegation returned to Nassau this morning and promptly reported to Cabinet along with its legal advisors. It transpired at the Beijing negotiations that Baha's additional funding requirements had increased considerably and now included not only funding for completion of construction, but funding to meet startup and operating expenses, funding to cover other liabilities, and deferral of principal and the initial balloon payments under the loan facility with Exim Bank. I am advised that both Exim Bank and China Construction Company demonstrated flexibility in meeting Baha's expanded funding requirements and project completion date. This notwithstanding, Baha still wanted an extended period for further negotiations, which was not acceptable. Baha was also not prepared to agree to terms which would have included the immediate discontinuance of their Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings in the United States and their legal action against China Construction in the United Kingdom. These terms were demanded by Exim Bank and China Construction and supported by the government as conditions to any agreement for additional funding, resumption of construction, and project completion date. Meanwhile, the government has arranged for a second payment of salaries for Baha's Bahamian employees, with a view to such payments being recovered in due course so as not to place any additional strain on the Bahamian taxpayer. Exim Bank and China Construction have pledged their willingness to work with the Bahamas government in their common objective for the completion and opening of the project in the shortest possible time. In this regard, it goes without saying that the completion of the Baha resort is a matter of the utmost national importance. Baha must open. Whilst we remain open to further discussions, my government has taken the decision to seek to bring the Baha development project under the control and supervision of the Bahamian Supreme Court right here in the Bahamas. Consequently, on the advice of our Bahamian, United Kingdom, and U.S. lawyers, the Attorney General has today filed a winding-up petition in the Bahamas Supreme Court against 14 Bahamian entities that filed for Chapter 11 protection in the United States at the end of June. These compulsory or involuntary winding-up proceedings are designed to work in very similar terms as Chapter 11, but with the stark difference that they will be controlled by a provisional liquidator under the supervision of the Bahamian courts rather than being controlled by Mr. Ismailian. The liquidators, if appointed by the court, will be neutral and impartial professionals of the highest quality and of impeccable credentials. Importantly, The role of the liquidators will be to expedite the resolution of the matter and to prepare a plan for the restructuring of Baha that will result in the earliest possible completion and opening of the project. The Bahamian court is familiar with using the provisional liquidation procedure as an effective tool to reorganize a company's affairs. Indeed, the well-known case of Charter Oil is an instructive example of how a major company in the Bahamas was placed in compulsory liquidation by its creditors, was successfully restructured in the course of the liquidation, and then, by order of Justice Harvey da Costa, was able to come out of liquidation. At that point, the liquidators dropped out and executive authority was restored to a new, reconstituted board of directors. Moreover, such a path is specifically provided for under the Companies Winding Up Amendment Act 2011. Baha took the decision to file for bankruptcy protection in the United States of America. Papers filed in the United States suggest that if Bahama's strategy in the United States was allowed to continue, there would not only be a substantial delay in the completion of the project, but there would also be great uncertainty as to whether the developer would ever be in a position to complete the project at all. Further, were the processes to continue in the United States, the fate of this Bahamian project, its Bahamian employees, and the international reputation of the sovereign nation of the Bahamas would be in jeopardy. Consequently, and in addition, the Attorney General is challenging Bahama's application to the Supreme Court of the Bahamas to recognize and accept the jurisdiction of the Delaware Court in the Bahamas. This is not only just a matter of national sovereignty. There must be a Bahamian solution to this Bahamian issue. And the majority of the key parties in this matter recognize and support that position. The actions taken by the Attorney General are not designed to punish Baha, much less is it the intention to destroy Baha. On the contrary, the purpose of the provisional liquidation is to enable the appointment of a neutral party to take control of the process and to work with the key stakeholders under the supervision of the Bahamian court to prepare a strategic and workable roadmap for the completion and opening of the resort. Such a solution will recognize and respect the rights and legitimate interests of the key parties, including Baha and the Bahamian people. My fellow Bahamians, I am absolutely convinced that we are on the right path, one that will lead to the completion and opening of Baha in the near future. While it is true that there are still major obstacles to be overcome, I remain extremely optimistic about the end result, one that will not only ensure that employment of thousands of Bahamians, but the emergence as well of a resort destined for great success in the tourism industry of the Bahamas and of the region. As we have done throughout, we as your government will continue to be guided by what we honestly and truly believe to be in the best interests of the Bahamian people. In closing, I need therefore only to repeat that we are on the right path and that we can all look forward to the completion and opening of the Baha Resort in the near future. Thank you and good night.